All right, we're in, I believe. We're definitely in this. Okay, we're in today. Had to do it today. I've been even to put up the videos and even that's coming before this that I did recently. The Illusion and Delusion, one of them. And good to have you here. Early? Well, it's 8 o'clock. Some would say it's not early, but we're here today to accumulate the last two videos. Like I said, um, I always want to have something being the breadcrumbs to the next video, and this would be definitely it. We went into AI worship. I could have did realism before this, but I really felt impressed this morning when I got up that I needed to go ahead and record this video and go ahead and do it. And then amongst the other two that I did that I have not put up, and put those out so they could schedule them for y'all. But on the real, if you see the beginning of this says the return of the goddess. Some say rolling your eyes, and if you're awake, you should know that this, because it's not about just the physical body. It's about an archetype of feminine aspect of the feminine reality. What's behind the eyes? I remember Seven used to say, "What's behind the eyes? Just not of a female, but a female lion, a female beaver, a female, female of any type and substance of ladybug." What would be the energetic process of that? And we're going to do it because this has really been hitting me that with modern feminism, we look at and we see that it began with having some equality in laws, like in two basic foundations were two basic foundations. We're going to get on talk about some deep about the system and about the patriarchy with this. Oh yeah, because there is a patriarchy that even though many will say, "Oh, we've done this," we live. This is a system, and if you see beyond the system, politics is part of the system. It's really hijinks. I mean, it's a clown show now, and I'm not just saying, "Oh, one." It always has been. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. It's a movie. It's a play. You need to not be in the play with your emotions attached to left or right. That's why the play's there, to attach your emotion. Like when you watch a play or a movie, you watch a suspenseful movie. It's counted, the movie, even by you, on your standards, would be you are invested in the story, where emotionally you're invested in the story and the plot. That's why some people like some movies or those that you have to think. It's just not eventually, you know what it's about, right? In those kind of movies, a mystery or suspenseful, they want you to engage and actually emotionally. Well, that's what they're doing because the emotions, their food, and if you're invested emotionally, and um, and really they got you because then you start picking sides and they keep you in a dualistic frame when it's a play, it's acting, in all. It's what the old saying is: the whole world is a stage. Well, when I'm going back to what I was mentioning, feminism, I was looking at how it started, and then anything connected to social, right? Justice, social media is a SS show. Ends up being the outcome is always an SS show. It's evident if you open your eyes now that that's what it is. And this is where pattern recognition must be, as you await pattern recognition. Why do they say history repeats itself? Because this shit's happened before. This shit's happened before. You can call this the awakening of the goddess, the return of the goddess. The goddess hasn't left, but the goddess was held down in history and in antiquity. There you go. God, that word's definitely gets me a lot. That word, it does gets me a lot. But let me get to this because I do got some things to share. We're going to go over it. Got some screen share. We're going to get into what I'm saying, but I want to set the foundation of this. Even what we see as patriarchy is not divine patriarchy. It's the copycat, which I keep showing, keep really emphasizing on my videos, that this system, this world, the God of this world, it's called, right? That Paul even calls it the God of this world, which would tell me he's talking demiurge talk. And the system, the matrix, right, is the artificial womb. Notice everything's a copycat of the real, and they market the copycat, the imposter, the great, isn't there a great song by Sam Cooke, or one of these songs in the 60s or 50s, The Great Pretender. I might be wrong on the artist. The Great Pretender, that would be the copycat. Why I'm saying this, because this isn't even divine masculine. You hear what I'm saying? It's not. It's lower level carnality and control and power. I even sent a message to one of Dr. What is her name? The one that has the videos about the goddesses, and she wrote a few books. And I ran something by her, and she agreed with me. She said, "Yes, this is what you're saying. It definitely makes sense. That the patriarch is trying to. The patriarch doesn't want the goddess. Doesn't, because it wipes out the patriarch, the copycat patriarch. The goddess will always draw, always, electromagnetic energy. Women are electromagnetic, men are magnetic or electricity, while women are the electromagnetic. They're the ones that draw. Remember this. I hear this sometimes, people saying this. Also, will say this, the seed. Men have the seed, not the woman. That's just facts. That's biology. She has the egg, men have the seed. That's why when everybody screamed equality, there was no such thing as equality. There's nothing equal. Men within themselves aren't equal. I was a good basketball player in my younger days. I was good, but I'm 5'9.5". Guess what? If I was 6'8", 6'9", I might have made the NBA. So a man that's 6'9", I'm not equal to for this NBA. Notice that. It's not about equality. It's not. This is why I believe the feminine movement was the shadow of the divine feminine. See, all people out here, this is what was wrong, what happened with the New Age. They might bring some spiritual truths because it's not new, they were ancient. But everything was candy, sweetie pie, and the reality is not. There's some sucking energies out here that would take all your energy, same as above as same as below. What we see below, we see the nefariousness of the system and them who've been placed in it. If this goes 40, it goes 40 today. I'm just trying to put this background. When you see this, it's not, you'll understand that the divine feminine is. And why I say the shadow, we talk about the shadow work, the shadow reality, because you are a shadow. There's a shadow. If I hang around, you can be spiritual cat I ever know, and it's like, wow, or woman. And just like, wow, everything, if I was to be with you all the day, I would see your shadow part of you. You see your shadow part of yourself, which you need to see. But be aware of it. Doesn't make that person or nullify them. Everybody has that shadow. So there's a scripture in the Old Testament that talks about not seeing God face to face. It's not quoted word for word, but we've seen his hinder parts. The hinder parts represents the shadow. And that's why I say that. And what we've been seeing is the truth for years, for the last 1,500 years. So through the Roman Empire is the male patriarch, if you want to call it, but the male shadow, not the divine male. Not the divine male. That's why we're opposites. The opposites are in you. Left brain, right brain. Heart, mind. Hermetic order. Integration. Alchemy within two. The great marriage. We did the bridal chamber here, which you need to go back and listen to if you haven't seen it. I did that. Wasn't too long ago. The bridal chamber. The very essence of a deep mystery of the feminine and masculine uniting. That's where the true marriage. The physical marriages we see outside and we participate in that's the lower realm story. The true is, can you do it within yourself? And when they do, the two become one, not verses. The shadow has you verses. That's why I even believe that every year when everybody descends on Bohemian Grove with power in the system, politicians, actors, and it's all men, they do this thing called cremation of care, right, with the owl. I see the symbology. I know what you're doing. Cremation of care is trying to destroy the divine feminine and keep it at bay, because they know there's a prophecy of old that the return of the goddess would come back for a restoration within us. And that divine goddess ain't somebody's going to appear and it's going to be this big giant woman. It's your feminine aspect activated, which is your spiritual aspect, because your natural aspect of the male is logic, order, but this feminine brings the intuition, the clairvoyance, the spiritual. When these two integrate as one, it's a higher logic, and it's even a more logical feminine aspect kicks in, and the male kicks in more with the intuition, or the heart starts, the electromagnetic aspect activates in him, and the two become one. I remember Jesus in the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas asked Thomas, you were one, now you're two, what do you do, Thomas? He says, Thomas didn't answer it completely in the verses. He says, you were one, now you're two, what do you do now? And the answer is that you got to make the two one again. Reverse engineer. Going through this matrix, you have to reverse engineer everything. You do. This is when you start learning to master yourself. You can master other people. You can master your relationships with them. You can master how to maneuver through them. And even it's even growth to know how to master through them and not judge them who don't know. The matrix is designed to keep everybody. But remember, when you wake up and ascend, the next level, you're still asleep to, and we're at 14 minutes but I wanted to set a foundation. Let me share, and we're going to share. This to me was important. The AI worship and the delusions and illusions after that is designed to help you see this. It is the breadcrumb to this. The illusions, the copycat, right, of that to the real, which is the return of the goddess integration, the bridal chamber mystery. They called it in the canonized version the marriage supper of the Lamb, but it's greater than that. That's bypassed because of the patriarch was the one that founded that and made the decision of the canonized. It was a political move. It's not a spiritual move by what we call it was the Roman Empire faking the funk as a spiritual group, the church, when it was all founded on a political movement of power. Yeah. We're not here to defend, we're here to truth, and truth don't give a darn about your feelings. And that's what we have to really, the truth will slap, like John Lennon said, instant karma is going to get you, it will slap you right in the face. You better wake up and find out your brothers are everybody in the human race. A unity of one is what he was talking about in that song. But anyways, let me share. We're going to start, before we get into this, we're going to start with a quote from Philip K. Dick. Let me go back into something. Let me go back into do something with this. Gotta get the right layout. Close this to me. So we got this from a thing that he wrote, Ballast, which was a novel that Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick, I'm discovering more and more, was such an incredible writer. The wounded healer, I would call him, because many healers become wounded themselves through the process of fighting through what they need to fight through to be the healer. But he made this quote. He said, "To fight the empires, to be affected by its derangement. This is a paradox. However, defeats a segment of the empire becomes the empire. It proliferates like a virus, imposing a form on its enemies. Thereby, it becomes its enemies." The reaction of this is incredible. He said this in his novel Ballast. We'll read it over here. The famous quote on the paradox of the resistance comes from his novel. To fight the empires, to be infected by the derangement, like I just said. Thereby, I'm going to skip to you become your own enemy when you fight it and become infected by and he calls it a derangement, which is a craziness, which we see now. The nefarious that they're telling us, and they're letting us know they're very nefarious, that their acts. I just watched a video of Epstein and his niece, and she told they were from the cult of Baal, and everything that the cult of Baal was into, which is a very ancient religion. It was in the area of the Phoenician Canaanites, which we call Israel now. Yeah. So there's others that participated that they don't want to say participated, but the knowers know. We know. The reality, when you take something, you'll take even their teachings when you take their land. But anyways, and their gods. And then take one of their gods, which is a desert storm god, and then make him the only god and call it monotheistic. Well, I better stop now. But that's kind of what I'm saying. So a very incredible quote from one very great man. Great quotes. I'm sad I didn't know about him years ago, but definitely I'm experiencing him now. Great books he wrote, and the story of him. We're not going to talk totally about his story today, but go watch a past video when we talk about Philip K. Dick. If we're going to go back in, so now let's go into the goddess. I had to just put that foundation because it's easy to get caught up of the nefarious and to anger. Yeah, right. It is, and wanting revenge, definitely. But that will make you the derangement of them. Is what he was saying. So let's share the screen. We did that. I got 2 shares about the goddesses, and so this is called the 14 names of goddesses. Every culture had goddesses. Every culture had, there's a time, and when the goddesses did reign here on the physical earth, they didn't whip the man or sabotage the men. They knew the men were needed for the things that men are good at, physically and spiritually, and they drew upon the man, and there was a servants to the man, to the goddesses. It wasn't the domination, as the patriarchy is the negative of the patriarchy is to the not divine, but the shadow patriarchies control power and deception. The dark side of this, which we see evident now in the movement, that ended up seeming it was for good things, like all social injustice movements. Everything attaches to them, it becomes a psyop, and it's possibly a psyop in the CIA from the beginning, anyways. Come on now. I'm going to do a video on Laurel Canyon in the late 1960s movement of what we would call the Summer of Love, and how these people all aligned and what they were connected to, which is more and more looking, and a man wrote the book, Mr. McGowan, that it was all a psyop in the Summer of Love. San Francisco and the Summer of Love here with the musicians, but we'll get into that later. We're talking about the feminine aspect, but I'm trying to emphasize the psyoping is very deep, very nefarious, very sneaky. Things can seem original that never were. Even that fact, because it was even started, it wasn't just hijacked. It could have even been started by them, and it appears to be good. It appears to be right. Remember, the God of this world does good and evil for his purpose. So, Sophia, Inanna, Isis, Persephone represent powerful, often interconnected archetypes of feminine wisdom, descent, and regeneration. Sophia embodies divine Gnosticism. Inanna is the Sumerian queen of heaven and war. Isis is the Egyptian goddess of magic, motherhood, and Persephone is the Greek queen of the underworld. Ro represents divine personification of wisdom in Hellenistic philosophy, Gnosticism, and Jewish traditions. The Mythos, frequently seen as a mother or the female aspect of God, sometimes equated with the Holy Spirit, Shekinah or Hina, who descends into matter, leading to the creation of the cosmos. That definitely, I know, is the aspect of the woman. Even the story of Sophia, kind of wandering away in a lower realm as she descended and creating something without the consort of the connection of the higher male aspect. That's what she did, and created a baby on her own, which is called lacking wisdom, the abortion, which is Yada-Baoth in the story, right? The demiurge, into the lower realms. Connection, linked with other goddesses who possess sacred transformation knowledge, including her role as the veiled mother. And when I say veiled, it's been hidden by the masses. And why I say that the movement then it's the movement's moving, but it's the hinder part. See, this is so inverted. We don't see the face of it first, like it said in the Old Testament. You couldn't see the glory of the face, but the hinder part was visible. The shadow of the glory is the shadow. It's the darkness. It's the opposite side. It's the side that's the negative aspect. There's a side that doesn't fulfill what the face or the glory would fulfill. It's the shadow aspect. Like us, we have to do shadow work on ourselves because we have hurts and pains, inner child emotions, inner child tragedies, traumas, and feeling abandoned or being abused. All these as a child can lead to this being packaged in a big room, like Eminem said, cleaning out your closet, cleaning out your inner child, cleaning out your shadow. Though this part is the shadow aspect. And now the light's being shined, but it's not being shined towards the fake, or many people are on the level just seeing it needs to be the balance of the masculine by men that don't have the power, younger men, other men. It's the aspect of, it's not that we haven't seen individuals display it. Collectively, the divine masculine. It's been shadowed too, even though we see it by kings and yada-yadas and the powers that are destructive in war, rumors of wars, and all the negativity that we see, because the divine masculine's a great supporter and builder. Remember, men are the builders. The foundation of because the true feminine aspect of the goddess is to draw unto a unity, to heal unto a unity, but also to expand your consciousness as the integration of the mind and electromagnetic heart go into Wi-Fi and expand. Notice Wi-Fi is wifey, feminine aspect, the goddess in motion now, the goddess coming out of being veiled, like it says here, being veiled mother. Inanna, the Sumerian goddess of love, war, and the morning and the evening star. So the morning star is Venus, right? That's the, in which we won't tell the truth today. Venus, morning star, is Lucifer. The indoctrination is Lucifer's evil, because they always hijack, because they are shadow deceivers, and they always hijack something that doesn't belong to them and make it something that it isn't. There's even a story that I had heard about in the early church fathers. There was one father who was fighting certain things, and his name was Lucifer, because back then that was a name that was considered a very good name. Lucifer. His name was Lucifer, and he was kind of a priest going against their traditions. He ended up being destroyed and came up missing because he was trying to implement some more truth, and he was going against them on the name Lucifer, what Lucifer really was, and what they were hijacking it later through the Illuminati, through the Catholic Church, to be, and then put their brand on it, which they did, of Satanism. All these terms are not what they meant from the beginning, and if you know what they really mean, you know it's hijacked. But anyways, and the feminine aspect was veiled. That's why we need to go behind the veil. Male, female alike need to activate your feminine goddess. That's the bridal chamber within, the true marriage or matrimony within. When you make the two uno, the two become uno again. Mythos, famous for resurrecting her husband. See, this will happen. That's why in the canonized version she ate the apple of deception, but in the Gnostic version she's the one enlightening Adam. Because when you're spiritually enlightened, that is activation within of the feminine aspect, wooing the male aspect to become one with her, so she can spread. And this is all energy. This is why your batteries are negative and positive. You can't just put the charger on the positive or the charger on the negative and think you're going to get power to the battery. It does not work that way. That's why, if you remember when I started, I had a long talk with me and my wife were talking about this, that we're not equals. We've been pushed this equal. Nobody's equal. It's you guys are the complete opposites, yin and yang. Because men and women don't think alike. Yin and yang. And when the yin and yang come together, they create the serpent Christ together. Backwards if I do it the other way. But the S is what I'm doing, the S. I do it because I watch Japanese wrestling, and Stardom is a women's organization, and they do that, meaning Stardom, when they went on other interviews, but the S. So the feminine and masculine becoming one is because we're the opposites. Because in energy, what's an old saying we all know? The opposites attract. The battery, the magnet. When the same magnets don't attract to each other. It's when they're opposite, when they attract, what's it do? It grabs it in you. And if you ever mess with magnets as a child or in your life, try pulling a magnet strong together. It's difficult to pull them apart. That's a feminine and masculine. They're not the same. They opposites. That's why we're not equal. That's why I started off by saying even men within themselves are not equal. Remember I said a guy 6'9" and a guy 5'9.5" like me, I might be a good basketball player, but guess what? That 6'9" guy is going to make it into the league. Because I'm not superior to him. And this is also with women in the physical aspect. Nobody's equal even into their own kind. Some are fat, some are skinny, some are round, some are really smart, some are really nurturing. Come on now. But there's an energy within this aspect within us that the two become one. Let's go down. The role. We did that. The motherhood. Famous for resurrecting her husband Osiris and acting as the protective mother of Horus. That's the protective mother, the drawing, the mothering, right? When the mother, see, Horus is her husband, she doesn't say, I'm equal to you and push you away, I'm better than you, this is what this is did. That's why we have the lowest birth rates going on in the world of depopulation. This has been what's been injected in the system, a program, a virus, a parasite. But to me it's the shadow, because the feminine goddess is arising within many to understand more as the consciousness rises, and many more the feminine aspects coming alive. I've really hit me the last 2 months. I've known about it, I experienced it, but the last year and a half and then I started looking at my life, and I started becoming a teacher when I had kicked out of the church. The very first one, and she actually had her own meetings in church. It was a woman. It was an older black woman. Actually, she was a grandmother of former NFL player Mervin Fernandez. If you know who he is, you'll know. You even look him up. So what she did was, we were there. I was visiting there because I was still seeking spiritual things, even though I was booted from the church for waking up. And this church wasn't waking up where I did, but she came up to me and said, "Here's the mic. Do what you're called to do." At that time, I got the mic, and from then on, I started teaching, preaching, and doors opened and stuff like that. And I went into esoteric Christianity, right? I went into esoteric Christianity, types and foreshadows, allegories, and all this stuff, seeing revelation knowledge. It goes hand in hand with Gnosticism, but there's that obscure difference that Gnosticism is the foundation of it. Revelation will lead and commingle with Gnosis, but Gnosis is the foundation of the experience all the time within you to get the energy, not just getting a revelation on something outside of you, which you can, but start when it's not about there. But what I'm showing you is the feminine obscurity of how it works in nuances, like women. If you really pay attention, women are very nuanced. That's why sometimes we're like, that's not what it is. 2 plus 2 is 4, and they're saying things and they're going, that's not what it means. But the spiritual aspect is because intuition's not logic. It can't be proved logical. And that's why they have to be a marriage to integrate where the two become one. Now we're not looking at a half, we're looking at a whole. But it's the feminine and masculine within you. This is how you became two, became one. Let's go. But notice she's the one that saved her husband, protected her Horus. With the 14 pieces, that's another connection is linked to Persephone regarding the themes of afterlife, renewal, and veiled wisdom, because that's also what the women represents, is the wisdom, the wise to the dome. Men have knowledge, and then we add the wisdom to the knowledge, it caps off the crown. The feminine aspect is a foundational piece, because they're without one of each other, you're not whole. And that's just not physically, that's within. I've got a lot of intuition, other things, I'm not bragging, but clairvoyance, besides having that experience where the woman opened my door, God, in 1994, that's 30 years ago. Also, I had a dream a year and a half ago about 3 women giving me a Lincoln Continental, and I was like, what does this mean? And I even asked them, I was like, I know you women, I know you 3. And I know about you, but I'm not remembering, but I know you, I feel you. And they gave me a Lincoln Continental and said, take it and go. And I go, do you got maps, or what am I supposed to do? What are you giving this? What's my mission? And they go, it will be unveiled to you in the dream. But now I know the 3 women are archetypes of I would say, Mary Magdalene, Sophia, and Barbelo. But every culture had this, is what I'm showing you. Persephone, Isis. Actually, Gnosticism's foundation, when you look at the lion-headed god and the archons with their physical or their animal faces in the drawings of how they were described, tells me it's based on Egypt or based on Kemet. Teachings, just that kind of lets you know that that's where it comes from. It's just not a Gnostic Christianity, it's a Gnostic all this, because it means knowing, experiencing. So Persephone, underworld, spring, vegetation, the daughter of Zeus, and Demeter, abducted by Hades, the lower realm, representing, just like Sophia to the lower realm, representing seasonal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Connection, sometimes viewed as a maiden figure, representing innocence, lost, and regaining power in the underworld. Waking up in the underworld. That's why the underworld is so, we have to experience it. That's just said, take the key. Persephone's like taking the keys of life, death, and the grave, or hell, death, and the grave. You have to experience it to ascend from it. And the wisdom that you get through Persephone, or the feminine aspect, brought wisdom. Like I said, she was a maiden. And the power of the underworld, right? Because a lot of our aspects of our regeneration and our rising in maturity is connected to the experience of the underground. Shared themes: descent, ascent,
going up and going down, engaging the world from the higher state to a lower one, Sophia's fall, Inanna's descent. Each archetype represents a form of renewal. To be seasonal, renewal would be a new birth or birthing a baby, right? That's a type of bringing back something's new. It's seasonal, Persephone, cosmic, Inanna, spiritual, Sophia, Isis. That's why I said Sophia and Isis are right there, the aspect of the same. What are they doing? Mary Magdalene's Abada is the embodiment of Isis and Sophia. Feminine power, the figures represent a non-reproduction forms of female power focusing on intelligent magic and a cosmic force of power. Let me go. I got one more I want to really share. We'll go into that, and then when we go into that, I'm at 37 minutes. I knew this was going to be a little longer because I knew there was a lot here and a lot to be said about here. And this is a prophecy that was mentioned, and we're going to talk about it. Definitely going to talk about it. I asked, and he gave it to me. We'll even go AI if we need to. The ancient prophecy regarding the return of Sophia returns to a Gnostic mystical belief that the divine feminine of God, known as Sophia, Greek for wisdom, or the Pistis Sophia, was systematically suppressed and hidden or reinterpreted by the early church, the mainstream Christian tradition, to reinforce a patriarchal theology. That's correct. The belief holds Sophia was exiled from the mainstream scripture, and that her return in reclamation is rather a mere revision, balancing the concept of God as the father and with God as the mother, bride, and the womb, and the expansion of consciousness as we go deeper. She's bringing the bridal chamber back and allowing us to implement the masculine and feminine, because you women need to implement the masculine in you, because you have masculine in you. You have to balance it. That's why we see feminism. There is masculine energy, but it's misused as bad or patriarchal, not divine masculine. And they don't wear it as well as men when they go into that aspect of it, because it's not divine. It's like trying to fake a funk, and you're not good at faking the funk, right? If you know what I mean. But it can be used. But it would take wisdom how to use it. The Hidden Sophia, History of Suppression. The original suppression, according to the early Gnostic text and the modern rediscovery, Sophia was the highest eon or emanation of the divine source, described as a co-creator alongside God. The church crime is argued. The church fathers in the 4th century around 320 suppressed this gospel. They suppressed all the truth. Let's just be honest. I told you from the beginning really what they are. And cut her name from the light, because it would have required admitting Christ walked in a sacred union with the divine feminine, which is he did, which even comes in the physical. That's Sophia is Mary Magdalene, which is even Isis, which is even Persephone, which is even Inanna. If you want to go on, there's even more. And every culture has it. There's a lot more. And even the base Native Americans have it. Africans have it. All cultures have this feminine and masculine play, because even when we look at Buddhism, we see the what is it called? We see the yin and yang symbol, feminine and masculine, with the divine. That would have undermined patriarchal authority. The transformation of her role, her attributes were reportedly divided and stripped. Her creative energy became the Holy Spirit. Her nurturing qualities were given to the Virgin Mary, and her wisdom was attributed to a masculine logos, Christ. A religion without femininity is not whole. That's why exoteric. That's why I harp on knowing exoteric and esoteric. It should be a foundation for anybody, because it gives you exactly what it is and what it isn't. It's a foundation. Yay or nay. 2 + 2 is 4. That's really the logic in the esoteric and exoteric. Nag Hammadi text, 1940s, discovered in where? Egypt, brought many silenced texts to light that the details Sophia's role and the search for the forgotten heavenly mission. The prophecy of return, the rising of Mary Magdalene, In the context, Sophia is frequently identified with Mary Magdalene, who's known as, in the Gnostic text, as the Apostle of Apostles. Yes, in the story, she has the mysteries that were all given to her with her connection with Christ, and she's expanded where many of the men have not integrated the feminine aspect and fight it still. Return of wisdom. This is the return as waking or spiritual wisdom. The awakening of the collective conscious, where God is no longer seen only as a male, but as a divine balance of the couple, both sides of you. Sophia as the divine mother is a return prescribed as Sophia, or the divine mother, returning to the rightful place, allowing humanity to see God as just not a king, but he's a feminine, life-giving presence, or a queen. Surviving that, the book of Proverbs, wisdom, the Hebrew, the wisdom is always called a her. I'll just make it easy and we can read that. It still describes the living partner in creation. Eastern Orthodoxy known as Hagia Sophia. Okay, holy wisdom is revered in Eastern theology, even depicted in Russian icons, the fire angel holding a throne. Mystical traditions, mystics have continued to see her as the bride of the God, or the eternal feminine, quick guiding souls toward the enlightenment. That's why in the story, what did she do? She breathed. She breathed the light that Yada-Baal didn't have, even though he stole the physical aspect, but she had to bring the light in him, and that's why he became that's why it talks about, I'm a jealous God. Who's he jealous of? Because the ones that were created in the story had the spark of life, and he was jealous because he did not. His abortion refers to a central myth of Gnosticism regarding the divine feminine, with many scholars, mystical traditions argue with suppression by the early Catholic Church to keep the patriarch. Definitely had a reason, and that is one of them in power and control. In the Gnostic tradition, Sophia is Greek for wisdom. It is a divine being whose fall from the celestial realm, Pleroma, inadvertently created a material world, and that definitely is here, and what we've seen and experienced, it is the return of that foundation, and it is within you. It is within you. This goes with, when you know this, what I'm saying today, when you really see this, what I'm talking about now, when you really see this, you will not deceive by AI worship. Any lying wonders that are coming that with using technology and making everybody believe, because that's going to happen, and they're going to fall like hotcakes. They're going to go for it. And I'm serious. A lot of these traditional Christians are going to go blah, blah. They're going to fall for it because they're not built on a foundation. They're built on what we just discovered. The lack of the femininity, the lack of revelation knowledge, the lack of gnosis, the lack of the inner spiritual aspect of the integration of having the great marriage within. They're still drinking 40 years in the church and still drinking Similac and rotten milkmaid. That's what's happening. When you drink rotten, guess what happens to your body? You become sick, you have no strength, you have no nutrients, and that's why there's no growth in there. There's no unity. And this would be all exoteric religions. All of them are exoteric. You're given an outer belief system and don't have the experiential of the inner belief system. This is the return of the goddess Sophia, or the god, whatever you use in your culture. It's Inanna, it's Isis. It's been there in every culture, the feminine aspect. In this case, in the Gnosticism of Christianity, it's Sophia. Connection of Greek, Egypt, and Kemet, kind of intermingled. Connected. That's why, where was it found? It was found, and these books are found in Egypt, where they buried them long at 1600 years ago and refound in 1945, and they didn't sell them to powers that be. They distributed it to be out to the public, which is great, showing we do have some intervention on our side. It's just not one-sided. Okay? There is something connected to give us, whether it's part of the story of even the simulation, but you're a living soul living in this. Thank you, guys. I hope this does you good. This will be out, let me see, the 30th, the 2nd, probably the 5th of April when you see this. I'm recording here on the 24th. You guys have a great day.